Hello, students. A very good morning to you. I hope you all are fine. So, students, today we will see third part of chapter 11, that is transportation in animals and plants. In previous two parts we have studied about circulatory system and its three parts, that is blood vessels and heart. We have studied about the structure and working of heart also. Then in this part, in this video, we will see what is excretion in animals including human beings. Then we will study about human excretory system. After human excretory system, we will see some other excretory organs of human beings. Then we will study about dialysis, transport of substances in plants, and at last we will see what is transpiration. So students, let's start with excretion. So students, from this topic you all are familiar, because about excretion we have studied in 6th class also, that what is excretion. So a short definition of excretion we have studied in 6th class. So here we will study excretion in detail. So students, in order to survive, our body has to do lot of works. So lots of chemical reactions takes place inside our body. These chemical reactions are called metabolism, and these metabolism produce lots of wastes. As for example, we can say that when we eat food or drink water or breathe in air, our body uses these food, water and air, and it produces some unwanted substances. So these unwanted substances are called waste materials, or we can say waste. And these waste materials are very toxic means they are very poisonous, so they are very harmful for our body. So these waste materials, it must be removed from our body time to time in order to remain healthy or stay healthy. So the removal of waste materials produced in the cells of living organism is called excretion. Means the removal of waste products which is produced in the cells of living organism, this process is called excretion. And the parts or the organs that involve in the process of excretion, so these organs collectively they make excretory system. So the various waste materials produced in the cells of human body are carbon dioxide, urea and sweat. So the human body has many organs for the removal of waste from the body. The organs for the removal of waste materials in the human body are lungs, kidneys, liver, sweat glands, etc. So many types of waste produced after the metabolic reactions, metabolic processes, as carbon dioxide. We all know carbon dioxide is produced as a waste product during the process of respiration when our food is broken down to release energy. So carbon dioxide is one of the waste product. Then along with carbon dioxide, water is also produced. Then uric acid or urea, these are some other very toxic materials, and they are produced as waste products. And when these waste products they get accumulated in our body, they can cause very serious damage. And if they are getting collected in the body, they're accumulated in the body, and removal of these waste products are not taking place, at that case ultimately these waste products can kill the human beings, they can kill the living organism. So excretion process is very important for all living organism. Then we will see excretion in animals. So in small aquatic organism as amoeba or hydra, the waste materials they diffuse out into the water directly from the cells in which they are produced by the process of diffusion. But in animals, means with complex body structure. Suppose these organisms like amoeba and hydra, they are very simpler organisms. But when we talk about the organism or animals which complex with complex body structure, diffusion of the waste product outside the body is not at all possible. So they have different methods to remove waste materials produced by different organs of excretion in different animals. So flatworms, they are a type of worms. They have excretory canal consisting of flame cells. So flame cells, they are the excretory organs. Then earthworms have tubular structures called nephridia. Then insects have Malpighian tubules as excretory organ, and in human beings and other higher animals, we know we have various excretory organs such as skin, lungs, liver, large intestine, and kidneys. So first of all, we will see human excretory system. So we know that the excretory system is also known as urinary system, and this urinary system or excretory system has two kidneys, two ureters, a urinary bladder, and a urethra. You can see all these details in the diagram only. There are two kidneys, two ureters, one urinary bladder, one urethra, and one urinary opening. So this is the structure of our main human excretory system. The kidneys are two, means they are two in number. They are reddish brown. You can see the color also. They are bean shaped organs, and they are about 10 centimeter long and 6 centimeter wide. Each kidney weighs about 150 gram. They are located near the back of the abdomen behind the intestine. The left kidney is slightly located superior than the right kidney due to the larger size of the liver on the right side of the body, because at the right side of the body liver is also present, and the liver has the largest size. That is why left kidney in position, left kidney is slightly superior than the left kidneys are slightly superior than the right kidney, and right kidney is somewhat smaller in size than the left kidney. Next one, kidneys help in the excretion of urea, waste compounds produced in the body in the form of urine. Urea is produced as a waste product by the decomposition of unused food proteins in the liver. So the major waste product of our body is urea, which goes into our blood and makes it dirty. Urea is very poisonous substance, and along with urea, some other unwanted salts which are dissolved in water in our body, and they form a yellowish liquid waste, and that yellowish liquid waste is called urine. Urine contains 95% of water, 2.5% urea, and 2.5% mineral salts and compounds of sodium and potassium. Urine is a transparent yellow colored liquid, and the yellow color of this urine is due to the pigments formed by the breakdown of bile and hemoglobin. Bile, you all know, bile is produced by liver, which helps in the digestion of fat. And hemoglobin, we all know, hemoglobin is a red pigment which is present in our blood, which gives red color to the blood. So when breakdown of bile and hemoglobin takes place, then some pigments produced, and these pigments, they give yellow color to the urine. Along with these pigments, some medicines that we take, or the nutrients also, that nutrients also have they have color segments. And sometimes if we are having any infection in our body, in that time also the color of our urine, it may be somewhat darker. Now each kidney, they are made up of thousands of small units, and these units are called nephrons. So the working unit of the kidney is a microscopic structure, and that microscopic structure is called nephron. Each kidney is made up of a large number of nephrons, And nephrons, they filter the nitrogenous waste products. Nitrogenous waste products means urea, because in urea nitrogen is present, that is why it is called nitrogenous waste. So nephrons filter the nitrogenous waste materials and excess of water from the blood and form the urine. And the urine from all the nephrons in the kidneys, they flow into the ureters. Ureters, you can see here, these tube-like structures which are connected to kidneys, these are ureters. So urine from all the nephrons in the kidney, they flow into the ureters. Ureters take it to the urinary bladder, which expand like a balloon as more as urine collects inside it. So here you can see the diagram of urinary bladder. Means first nephrons are present in the kidneys, they filter the blood, they collect the urine, and they take the urine and they bring it into the urinary bladder by ureters. So urinary bladder is a balloon-like structure and it expands like a balloon-like structure as more as urine collects inside it. Then top of the urethra, that is the opening, you can see here. So the top of the urethra is surrounded by a ring of muscle called sphincters. Normally, this muscle is tightly contracted, so urine cannot get out of the bladder. But when the bladder is full, this ring relaxes, and at the same time, the muscles of in the walls of bladder, they contract, so the urine is forced out of the body through urethra, and this process is called urination. So this is the complete process of excretion through our kidneys. Now normally an adult human, they excrete 1 to 1.8 liter of urine in 24 hours. Means in one day an adult human excrete 1 liter to 1.8 liter of urine, but the volume of urine depends on the fluid intake. So if you are taking excessive fluid intake, then it increases the volume of urine, and if we are taking very small amount of fluids, then it decreases the volume of urine. Now students, after kidneys we will see the some other excretory organs of human beings. So first one is lungs. We know lungs are responsible for the excretion of gaseous waste, and in that gaseous waste also the prime or main, or we can say important gaseous waste is carbon dioxide. We know carbon dioxide is produced as a waste product in our body cells during the process of respiration, where food is broken down to release energy. So carbon dioxide is removed from our body by the lungs during exhalation. Next one is liver. So our liver converts amino acids. Amino acid, we all know, the food we take which is rich in proteins, that proteins are broken down to form amino acids. So when this amino acid reaches to liver converts this extra amino acids to ammonia and urea, and the products resulting from conversion of amino acids are picked up by the blood. The blood delivers urea to the kidneys where it is excreted, as we have studied. The liver also breaks down red blood cells to excretory pigments. These pigments, they enter the bile, passes through the small intestine, and after that it is removed from the body with the feces. So in addition to breaking down of amino acids and red blood cells, our liver also breaks down the harmful substances. It also breaks down many ingested poisons and drugs. Then large intestine. So large intestine help to remove undigested food through the anus in the form of fecal materials. Then skin. As we know, most salts are carried by the transport system to the kidneys, where they're mixed in the urine. but some are excreted or removed by the skin also. Means when we perspire, sweat glands in the skin, they excrete a watery fluid, and that watery fluid is called sweat. So the sweat contains salt, water, and urea. So sweating is a form of excretion. It is a form of excretion, means it is a removal of waste materials. It helps the body to get rid of many metabolic wastes. And when we sweat evaporates when the sweat evaporates, it takes the heat from the body, and it give a cooling effect to the body. So when the temperature of a person's body increases, the person sweats more. The hot weather or hard exercise, or in the case of fever also, it can cause increased sweating. So sweating give us a cooling effect. Now next topic is dialysis. So students, we know that in our body continuously so many metabolic processes takes place, and these metabolic processes, they produce a lot of waste products. So we are having different organs for removal of waste product, but we know that the kidneys are the main excretory organs. So normal functioning of kidneys is very important for good health. Sometimes what happen, a person's kidney, it may stop working due to some infection or due to some injury. In case of some infection or injury, it may be possible that a person's kidney, it may stop working. So when the kidney do not work properly, they are not able to remove the waste products formed in the body. They're not able to remove the waste products. That waste product is urea from the blood. And complete failure of kidneys lead to the accumulation or collection of too much urea in the blood. So we know that urea is a toxic substance. It is a very poisonous substance. So the accumulation of too much urea in the blood of a person can lead to the death of the person. Means the collection of these type of waste products such as urea can ultimately kill the person. So a person having kidney failure cannot survive unless his or her blood is filtered time to time through the kidney machine to remove urea. So that machine is called dialysis machine. And this dialysis machine is also called as artificial kidney. So dialysis is a method of separating toxic substances from the blood when the kidneys are unable to do so. Means when kidneys are not working properly, in that case, by using that machine, the toxic substances are separated from the blood. So we can say that dialysis is a process of separating small molecules from larger ones using a semi-permeable membrane. Semi-permeable membrane means a membrane which allows the movement of some molecules only. So the principle of dialysis is used in an artificial kidney machine, that is dialysis machine. The machine is used to separate waste substances from the blood of the person whose kidneys are unable to perform the excretory function. The blood of a patient is pumped from one of the arteries into a long coiled cellulose tube suspended in a tank containing dialysis solution. What is dialysis solution? Dialysis solution consists of water, salts, and glucose, which is just has a similar composition as our blood plasma. So it is made just like that, just to give that blood as the same condition or same environment as it gets inside the person's body. Okay, now as the blood passes through semi-permeable cellulose tubing, waste products such as urea are dialyzed out into the dialysis solution, and the clean blood is then returned to the patient's arm vein. Now it reaches to veins, and through veins again it reaches to the heart, and in heart the blood is purified and then it distributed into the whole body. So this is the process of dialysis. Now, students, next topic we will see, that is transport of substances in plants. So, as we have studied already, that the plants absorb water and minerals from the soil through the roots, and these are transported to the leaves for the preparation of food by the process of photosynthesis. And then the food synthesized or prepared in the leaves is then carried to the other parts of the plant body. In plant, therefore, transport involves two things, that is movement of water and minerals from the soil to the roots into the plant body, and movement of food prepared in the leaves to other plants parts. So we know that plants do not have blood to carry substances around it. So in that case, transportation in plants is carried out by a well-developed transportation system called vascular system. It consists of two special type of tissues, that is xylem and phloem. So xylem, that is xylem vessels, they are vessel like structure, they carry water and minerals. And phloem, they are tube like structure, they are phloem tubes which carry food materials. So first we will see xylem vessels. So xylem vessel is composed of dead hollow cells. Hollow means they are empty from inside, so they are dead and hollow cells with no end walls, means they are continuous cells without end walls. The cells join end to end, forming a continuous tube, and xylem vessels of roots join to the xylem vessels of stem and leaves. So the main function of xylem vessels is to transport water and minerals from roots to leaves and to keep plants upright. Next one is phloem. So phloem, just like their xylem vessels, phloem tubes are made of many cells joined end to end. In xylem, we have seen they are also joined end to end, because but there are no end walls. But here in phloem tubes are made of many cells and they are joined end to end. And yes, their end walls are perforated. Perforated means they are sieve like structure, they resembles to sieve. So for this reason, phloem cells are called sieve tubes. And main function of phloem is to transport food from the leaves to the other parts of the plants. Next, transport of water and minerals. So as we know that plants absorb water and minerals through the roots, a large number of root hairs are present on the roots. Means when you will observe a root carefully, then you can see very small root hairs are also present on the roots. So root hairs increases the surface area of the root for absorbing water and minerals dissolved in water, and that water which is present in the soil. So root hair absorb water present in between the soil particles, and from the root hair to the cells of cortex, water along with the mineral enters the roots by the process of osmosis. So here I would like to explain what is osmosis. Osmosis is just like diffusion. As we have studied about diffusion, the movement of molecules from their higher concentration to lower concentration. But one difference is there. Osmosis is the diffusion of water molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Yes, both are same, but diffusion osmosis is somewhat different from diffusion. There is a use of one semi-permeable membrane, means there will be some membrane through which process of diffusion takes place. So when we have studied about diffusion, there is just a movement of molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration without any membrane. Here in osmosis, so the cells of root hair, or we can say cells of roots, they act as a semi-permeable membrane. So when the movement of molecules takes place, and here in case of osmosis, there is a movement of water molecule. So when movement of water molecules takes place from their high concentration to lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane, then this process is called osmosis. So from the root hair to the cells of root cortex, water along with minerals, it enters by the process of osmosis, and then from the root it moves upwards towards the stem and leaves. So the upward movement of water and mineral takes place through a pipe-like structure or channel present throughout the body, and these pipe-like structure or channels, they are special cells, that is xylem vessels. Okay, so xylem, we know it form a continuous channel that connect roots to the leaves from the stem and branches, and in this manner water and minerals are carried to the entire plant. Now one activity is there, that is to demonstration of to demonstrate that water is conducted through xylem. Means here we have to show that yes, in plants water is conducted through xylem. So for this we need two small twigs, two beakers, water and blade. So what we have to do, we have to take two small twigs, then remove a ring of bark from one of the twig. From one of the twig, very carefully we will remove the ring of bark with the help of blade, and in second twig we have to remove the xylem from the second twig without causing any harm to the blade. So as you can see in the diagram. Now we have to place both the twigs in separate beakers containing water, and we have to leave them undisturbed for 2 days, and after 2 days we will record our observation. Now after 2 days we will observe that the leaves of on the first twigs, the first twig, they are turgid, means they are maintained in their shape, and the leaves on the second twig, they are wilted and they are drooped. So in first case what happened, the leaf continues to receive the water in the presence of xylem because we have removed the bark on the from the first twig. So xylem is as it is, so leaves continue, they receive water from the in the presence of xylem, that is why they are turgid. In second case, xylem is removed. So no xylem means no conduction of water will be there in the absence of xylem. That is why leaves are wilted. So this shows that water is conducted by xylem. Now, from the soil, the root cells absorb water and minerals continuously, which produces a force that pushes water upwards. The evaporation of water from the leaf surface also produces a pulling force that we have studied about transpiration. So evaporation of water, when evaporation of water takes place, it also produces a pulling force that causes water to move upwards. So one more important thing is there, that is ascent of sap, the transportation of water and dissolved minerals from the roots to the stem, leaf and other parts of the plant through xylem is called ascent of sap. Ascent of sap. Sap means here water and minerals. So transportation of water and dissolved minerals from the roots to the stem, leaves and upper parts of plant through xylem is called ascent of sap. Now factors affecting absorption of water. So first one is soil temperature. Soil temperature, it is a very major factor for the absorption of water by the roots. Optimum temperature for water absorption is 20 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius, and an increase or a decrease in temperature causes a decrease in a rate of absorption of water. Then concentration of soil solution. So the cell sap of root hair is more concentrated than that of the surrounding soil water. So the water, therefore, it enters the root hair till the deficit in concentration is maintained. So if the concentration of the soil solution is higher, water absorption is inhibited. Then aeration of soil. So well aerated root absorb more water than the root which do not go deep in the soil. So these are some factors which affect absorption of water by the roots. Now next one is transportation of food. So the food prepared in the leaves is transported to all parts of plant, and vascular tissue that helps in the transportation of food is called phloem. We all know phloem is present along the xylem inside the plant body, and the process by which food produced in the leaves is transported to all other parts of the plant. That process is called translocation. Okay, now here we have to prove that translocation means transportation of food takes place by phloem. So for this we can say, you can see the diagram. When we take a thick stemmed plant and we remove its phloem tissue, after few days the stem shows swelling in the upper portion due to accumulation of food material. So upper portion has leaf will produce food, and when we remove phloem, that phloem only transfers the food material. So when we remove the phloem, the accumulation of food will takes place at that point only from where we have removed the phloem tissue, means downward movement of food gets blocked. So this proves that phloem tissue help in the transportation of food, that is, it help in the translocation of food. Now students, our next topic is transpiration. You all are familiar from transpiration because you all have studied transpiration in 6th class. We know that water taken up through the root system is much more than what is required by the plants for its various activities as photosynthesis and growth. Means large quantity of water is absorbed by the roots from the soil, but only small quantity is used by the plants for making food or for other purposes. So the remaining water is lost into the atmosphere in the form of water vapor. So the process by which the plants lose water in vapor form from their leaves is called transpiration. Means this loss of water in the form of water vapor from the leaves or aerial parts of a plant is called transpiration. Means when the plant is in herbaceous stage, means when the plant's stem is not woody, in that case sometimes the stem also has stomata, because we know that the process of transpiration takes place through stomata. Stomata, we all know, leaves contain tiny pores on the lower side of the leaves, and these tiny pores are called stomata. So the loss of water takes place by the process of transpiration through these stomata. So stomata are basically, they are present on the lower side of the leaves, but sometimes they are present on the stem also. And when the plant becomes very tall in height, means when it comes in the condition of trees, in that case they are having lenticels, and from lenticels also the loss of water takes place through the process of transpiration. One more thing, when water escapes through transpiration more quickly than it absorbed by the root hair, in such situation plants lack water. So as a result, the leaves, stems and flower get dropped, and this is known as wilting. So the evaporation of water from leaves produces a suction pull which helps to pull water up to the great height in tall trees. So we can compare it as a suction of water or cold drink from our mouth when we use it, when we drink it using straw. So our mouth also create a suction pull. Just like that, transpiration also causes a suction pull which take the water to the great heights. Next, the rate of transpiration is affected by different factors. So first one is the temperature of air increases transpiration. Means when the air has temperature, that temperature is high temperature, in that case transpiration increases, because that temperature heats the water present in the cells of leaves, and the water become in the form of water vapor and the process of transpiration takes place. Then humidity decreases transpiration. Humidity means the amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere. So if atmosphere is already saturated with humidity, already saturated with water vapor, in that case the rate of transpiration, the rate of coming out of water from the stomata through the leaves, this transpiration rate decreases. Then wind speed increases the rate of transpiration. Light causes stomata to open and increase in transpiration. Next thing, significance of transpiration means what are the importance of transpiration. So first one, it helps in the transport of water and minerals from the soil to the leaves, as we have studied, because transpiration process creates a suction pull. So it helps in the transport of water and minerals from the soil to the leaves, as it the process of ascent of sap also takes place. Then it produces a cooling effect, as sweating gives us cooling effect. Sweating gives a cooling effect to the animals, to the human beings, just like that. It produces a cooling effect which protect the delicate cells from the hot sun. Then it also provides rigidity to the plant body, means becomes very important for the plant body, because it makes the cells strong. It makes the cells rigid, so it provides rigidity to the plant's body. Now this chapter is completed. Now some understanding based questions are there. First one is what is nephron? Then in which direction does the water move in the xylem? What do you understand by vascular system? What is dialysis? What is transpiration? What is the composition of urine? And what is ascent of sap? So answers of all these questions you will get from the video. So please do watch the video, and thank you, students.